So good evening ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to RayStation.net. My name is Vernonator1991 and I will be bringing you the first round of a brand new championship starting up on Project Cars 2, which is the Ginetta GT4 Challenge. Round 1 coming from the Oschersleben A course. The season will be, effectively a one-make championship. Nobody has teammates, so everyone just driving for themselves. I will quickly run through the rules with you now, so you're familiar with how the season will be for the rest of the season. So all the rules and penalties are on. Obviously, track corner cutting penalties are on. Allowable time penalty is 15 seconds, and you can also get drive-through penalties and pit lane exit penalties as well. You're not forced into an interior view, so they can use whatever view they like, but driving line is forced off, and I didn't get a chance to go through the rest of them because we're already actually 2 minutes early getting underway. So as we load in, the way it works is there will be a 30-minute qualifying to determine the grid order, and then followed by basically every race will be the nearest to 48 miles, so whatever lap ends up tipping over the 48-mile mark, that will be the final lap of the race. And if I remember correctly, I'm just going to get the rules up in front of me on my phone, but if I remember correctly, it is 21 laps we will be doing around this track. Just going to get the rules in front of me. Yes, 21 laps, I am right. So this track is replacing Knock Hill, which was initially meant to be the first round of the championship, but it became apparent that that you could only have no more than 12 cars on the track around Knock Hill, and also Sugo has been replaced further down the line with Snetterton. Sugo being replaced due to a glitch within the track itself. Other rules to make you aware of: tyre wear on this is set to accelerated. There is also a mandatory pit stop, amongst other things like fuel wear. I believe is also set to an advanced rate, along with time progression, weather, and so on and so forth. So the drivers are just starting to make their way out on track now. Ignore my name on that list, obviously, because I'm not taking part. But we have got 15 drivers in this field. And again, do bear with me when it comes to the battling, because some of these names I'm not familiar with. They're relatively new to the website. And it's the first time I'll have seen in racing, and with the abbreviation against their name on the left hand side of the screen, sorry, it might make it a little bit difficult for me to get their names right first time around. So I do apologise for those who may watch this back later on, or for those listening now. Scooby Prezza is the first one starting a flying lap as they go into turn 1. Now the first couple of corners on this track are extremely tight and difficult to get right. It seems to have just about kept within track limits there. There's already a few track limited incidents there for Friday GTR. but I'm presuming that was all on his outlap, so I'm not expecting him to that to actually affect his actual outlap, or his actual flying lap. Sorry. Oh, Scooby's gone for a spin. Number 71's gone for a spin, and that's his first lap ruined. BK's gone back into the pits. At the moment, obviously no one has set an actual flying lap as of yet, but we will soon start to see some time start kicking in. And one handy feature with the spectate mode on this game is that we get all the track conditions, temperatures, vehicle status as well, so we can see how much fuel and the tyre pressures that each individual are running as we flick between the drivers. Now, Scooby Prezzer is the first one to set a lap, but of course we know he went for a spin on that lap, so that won't be a competitive lap time. So we wait for us. So it's Van Nel who's set the first, what I believe is the first real flying lap of a 1:36.9. As we're on board watching GTP Brezen coming round the final corner. And where will this put him? Straight on top with 1:36.3. So just over half a second. Oh, that's immediately beaten by our solo with a 34.5, with Gibbs GTO doing a 35 flat. So it's taken the drivers a few laps maybe to get into the thick of it, as that time is then beaten by the D. That's all he goes by as, the D. So back on track side, thank you. Friday GTRP has gone up to second with Goose third. I'll be flicking in and off the timing screen just so I can give you guys a full rundown of the order, but also mainly so I can remember each individual's name. So as I said earlier, I do apologise to any names I may get wrong as this goes on. A lot of names I'm not familiar with, as a lot of these drivers don't do the F1 league that RaceStation.net has primarily been running over the last period of time. BK's still in the pits. How are you looking? Not looking. Well, it's not set a valid lap yet. But it's still the D out in front on a 34.0. Drivers are getting out of the way, so there's a fair few fair driving going on out there, which is good to see for the opening round of this. Just gonna have to, I believe it's just starting. This must be his first flying lap now. He comes into turns 1 and 2. Fairly clean and steady. Just needs to get a lap on the board just to get him going, get his confidence up. Using every single bit of the track available. But with these cars you have to be very patient, and the same with the track, you have to be very patient with the track because it's all a lot of corners where you need to be half throttle or drop it down a gear, or it's not really a flat out corner on this track, so already 10 minutes has passed. Where will this put Matt in the order? Initial order appears to be a little bit of a collision there. Well, two cars getting well out of the way at the very least, but it looks like they've been involved in a bit of contact there. Matthew comes across the line to set his first flying lap. It puts him P9, but he's 2.1 seconds down from the D at the moment. Still 3 drivers yet to set a lap time, which are, sorry, 2, BK and Carl W. Obviously the bottom one is me, but I'm obviously not going out there, so we'll ignore 16th place on that tower screen on the left hand side. Very difficult to get used to these spectate modes, that's for sure. Oh, well, there was a bit of a collision with the wall there from as they jump straight into it. I didn't think that would be allowed, to be honest. You can just press rejoin the pit. I thought it all had to be really authentic and you actually had to drive round the track to the pit lane. As Friday GTP appears to have got himself into P2. Less than 300 from the top yet. GTRP, apologies. The top 6 are all within a second. Yeah, I'm quite surprised to have seen a few drivers just obviously go into the pause menu and press return to box. I would have thought with any league you'd have to keep it authentic, like we do in F1 where you cannot press reset the track. We've kept it fairly authentic and not allow them to do that, and they will have to physically have driven around to the pits to obviously refuel, get new tyres and so on and so forth. So that might be something that may get looked into after this weekend. We have FIA every week, cover all leagues, make sure any incidents are dealt with and any potential issues are also clarified or rectified. So see there, we've seen Friday coming into the pit as we would expect. That's the first one I've actually seen on the info feed on the bottom right hand corner saying he's making a pit stop, so that might get looked into. Mother Goosery is up to P4 or 34.5. What's BK doing? He's off the track at the moment. He's having a few difficulties out there. He's one of 2 drivers yet to settle out, and the other which, being Carl W, has not. He's still in the garage. Oh, there's a lot of damage on the front of BK's car there. Look at that. He's had a meeting with a wall somewhere. That's quite extensive damage. Front end's all buckled in. The windows and the front windscreen are all smashed. That's a lot of damage, and I believe with mechanical damage all set to 1 as well. I'm guessing as he goes for another spin, he might. Yep, he is recovering to track. BK to number 95, but I'm guessing that is having a real effect on how we can actually physically drive this thing. Oh, he's gone off again and he's into the pit lane. So Carl has now come back out to track. He's the only one yet to set a lap time. Sorry, he's along with BK the only ones to set a lap time. So this is getting quite important for him because we're nearly halfway through this quali session now. But the D's 34.0 is still holding on as the fastest lap of this session, although it's not by much. So we'll see how Carl does coming round. Final 2 corners before he starts his flying lap. Hopefully that car in front of him will not interrupt him, or if it's also about to start flying a lap, not get in his way. No, it's jumped to pit lane. As Carl goes around the first couple of corners. Sounds like a heavy lift through the middle part of what I'm assuming is turns 2 and 3. Come up to turn 4. Not a bad... No, that's a decent line. It's a promising start to the lap. Now, this is the important section because it's all... It all flows and it's all sort of half throttle and then sharp on the brakes for this right-hander. It's a late apex as well, so you've got to really get it right. Otherwise you can seriously lose lap times. They chuck it through the far chicane. And now the rest of the lap are all... 3 right-handers, 1 left-hander, all of sort of around 90 degrees. Pretty standard cornering these last few corners of this lap. This looked like an okay lap time this from Carl. I mean, I don't get any telemetry in terms of his lap time, unless I go into the timer screen, but he goes pole, there we go, F1:33.7. So maybe him sitting in the pit lane was more out of confidence than anything else, because his first competitive lap time straight into the 33s, and it takes pole position by nearly 3/10. Now what has the likes of the D and anyone got in the locker to answer to that? Plenty of time left in the session. BK is out there now with his ever battered car. But he's still, he is really struggling out there, and he's still the only driver yet to set a lap time. So all but 4 drivers are now out there, make that 5. I'm guessing Carl might go in. Oh no, he's done another lap. Is he going even quicker? He's down to 3 kilos of fuel. No, he doesn't improve his lap time, but here comes BK. Sets a 1:41.7, but it's 8 seconds off the pace. Not sure how much practice he's got on. BK's gone for another spin. See, I'm not sure how much track time these guys have had in preparation for this, but I'll tell you what, turn 1 could be interesting, considering, or the first couple of corners, considering how tight they are and how difficult these cars appear to be to drive. We could have a fairly chaotic first couple of corners. This is certainly well, for around here, I don't know about the other tracks, but certainly for around here, it's certainly an element of you can't win it at turn 1, but you most certainly can lose it at turn 1 because they're all going to be charging into there, and what appears to be a first gear corner. Onto Mother Goosery as the D goes back into the pits. Or shall I say, returns the garage from the pause menu. Oh, it's had some lag there as well. All of a sudden the car just appeared in front of Goose there. Don't know who that is. Not arsehole. Oh, Goose has gone back into the pit, so I wonder if that lap was ruined. Trying to see, it might have been Scooby. No, it's is that Jerome? Is that, isn't it? Jerome Stephanie. He appears to have, I don't know if that's a lag with a game or he's the only one. No, he's certainly he's the only one I'm getting any kind of lag off. All the others are going through the screen, no problem at all. The camera finally catches up. Oh, I've missed that, but Carl W's improved to a 32.7. He's got pole by over a second now. I did miss that. He's got pole by a massive margin. As it stands, Arsehole, I believe, is starting a lap from the number 14. You've really got to get that slowed down, and it's not like you can use the entire track either, because turn 2 is right in your face immediately. So you have to sort of compromise your speed in the turn 1 to get turn 2 optimised. So the traffic is doing a good job of getting out of the arsehole's way here. And that is just spelled R-S-O-L-E, by the way, for anyone listening. It's not me being rude. Feathering the throttle through there. I don't know if that's just how the cars behave or lack of grip. He's got 16 kilos of fuel on, so he's, and it doesn't appear to be, you know, going down massively fast. So he's got a fair amount of fuel on board. Around the final corner. It's just an improvement on his 134.2. No, it's not. What about the D, who was the early pace setter in this session? But with 7 minutes to go, he finds himself in P2, but a massive 1.2 seconds off. BK's improved to a 39.1, so He's now P14. So he starts his next flying lap. Gets it stopped for turns 1 and 2. Got to be really patient around 3 to get early on the gas to optimise the exit. And again, it's another late apex for turn 4. And no, it's 5, 6, 7 and 8. So that's 5, that's 6. And he's wide, he's off the track. In wide he's 7, and he's not having to take a tighter line through 8. So that's time loss. 9 and 10 is the fast section, and the long 11. Up to the 90-degree section of the laps at turn 12, turn 13, and then the last two right-handers are 14 and 15. Now he's obviously invalidated his lap time and jumped straight to the pits, which I'm really not liking, to be honest. I'd rather them actually, because it's almost giving them an advantage by allowing them to get to the pits. Well, it is giving an advantage by allowing them to get to the pits quicker, to mean they can get back out again in barely any time at all to go and set another lap. Friday has got within 8/10 of Carl W on the 33.5. Where's he losing his time? He's losing a tiny bit to sector 1. Fair chunk of it, well, this is on his current lap by the looks of it. A fair chunk of it sector 2. And sector 3 I'm not getting a reading on at the moment. And he goes into the pits, and he's doing it as he's meant to be. I wonder if some of these drivers who aren't may get a bit of a talking to. This is done. Scooby's still down there, so that's quite confusing. We've got two people on the timing screen on the left there, both SCO. And that's actually not Scooby. Scooby's the one down in P13. Wham Bam in 7th, Gibbs in 8th, Van Nel 9th, Matthew 10th. R Slicker. Obviously, again, quite a contentious name in 11th. GTP Brezen in 12th, Scooby in 13th, BK 14th, and Jerome Stephanie in P15. Top 4 are still in the garage. With it being a 1 minute 32 lap, it means they're only going to get one more run now if they do come back out. I don't know what the game is like in terms of restricting the use of tyres or limiting how many sets they're able to use. But all these guys are going to have to make at least one stop in the race because mandatory pit stop is set. So they have no choice but to, even if they manage to get to the end of the race in terms of fuel load without any issue, they will have to stop regardless. P6 now. That Wham he's obviously had an issue through turns 1 and 2. Gibson P8. Matthew rounding out the top 10 at the moment. Oh, that was a spinner in front of him. Hopefully it won't get in. No, it's well out of the way, so it won't bother Matthew there. I think that might have been Gibbs actually, who I think it was. It was Gibbs who I believe spun there. Come around the last couple of corners. The engine notes seem to be a lot lower than what I've been hearing with some of the other cars. He stays P10. And the top 4 have indeed stayed in the pit lane. They will not get out. As I say that, Goose has come out of the garage, but there's only 35 seconds left of this session, so I don't see the point of that, to be honest. How's Van Nel doing? Is he on any improvement? He's just gone through. He appears to be taking that easy. That didn't appear to be full speed. What about BK? His ever mangled car. Qualifying's complete, so they get 80 seconds to complete the lap. Now that's interesting, because if you actually cross the start line with moments to spare, in theory that's not enough time to actually get round and complete a lap here. That's interesting. That's I don't know if that's just how the game has had it set, or whether the timing of how long you have to complete qualifying is can be adjusted within the settings. But if you're literally at turn 1 when qualifying ended, you wouldn't have enough time to actually complete the lap. The session would end before you got round. Again, which would have frustrated a few people if they were on any improvements. BK's the only guy out there now. And as soon as he crosses the line, that'll be the session done. So let's get the timing screen up. So you have got Carl W on pole with Friday next to him. The Big D in 3rd, Mother Goosery in 4th, Arsehole in 5th. Scott, I'm just going to call him Scott. They're in 6th, Wham Bam in 7th, Gibbs in 8th. Van Nel in 9th, Goosery, Matthew in 10th, R Slicker in 11th, GTP Bresson in 12th, Scooby in 13th, BK in 14th, and Jerome in P15. And you just ignore me at the bottom there. I'm not an actual participant in this. Can't actually move within the obviously 1 minute 30 odd before the race starts. This is obviously a warm-up session. I think this game allows you to do a warm-up if you wanted, but it's obviously being used as the period of time you can have as a break between quali and race. So we have 1 minute to go before that before the race gets underway. Apologies for the slight break up of picture there. I accidentally pressed my PS button on my controller, so I do apologise about that. I think we could have a really interesting first lap here, mainly because turns 1 and 2 are so tight and so slow. It's going to keep the field really bunched up, and you're going to get some bumping, wheel banging, potentially 1 or 2 drivers put into onto the grass or into the gravel. I hope not, but just with the track layout, it could cause a few problems there. So we'll see what happens. 5 seconds to go before we move on into the race. I think it'll literally chuck us. What's gone on here? There we go. So we are underway. The D is got a jump there. What's happened to Carl W? He's and we have got people into the gravel, into the grass there, but Carl W doesn't appear to have made the start there, because all of a sudden we're down to 14 drivers. We've got a lot of exclamation marks going on. Oh, that's arsehole who's had a spin. But the D is into the lead, followed by Friday and Mother Goosery. And then I believe that'll be Scott in 4th, Gibbs in 5th, Wham Bam in 6th, Matthew up to 7th, Van Nel in 8th as all the bollards get taken out. Ooh. Van Nel's bars out of the way. That's BK up to 9th. BK's had a decent start. Van Nel down to 10th. Arsehole in 11th now with his spin. Scooby in 12th. Jerome in 13th. And GTP in P14. But unfortunately, we do appear to have lost Carl W there. I'm not sure what's happened there, but the pole sitter did not make the start. The D now leads by no more. It's literally half a second from Friday as they come into. Oh, that's Goose who's running a little deep into turn 1. Scott is in 4th. Wham Bam in 5th. Matthew up to P6 now. There's obviously been a few people who've had to make. Let's have a few more issues. BK's down to 10th. He's just recovering from a spin by the looks of it. I'm not sure what the exclamation marks mean. I believe they are exclamation marks. What they mean next to the people's names there on the left. I don't know what that means. But we've got a nice battle here going on at the front. 21 lap race, remember? So there's plenty of time for people to storm through the field, for people to make moves, to make mistakes. It could all change. The gap down to 3/10 over the line, so Friday is a little bit quicker at the moment in terms of lap time, and he's getting right up the back of the D at the moment. Goose is now coming under pressure from Scott. The best lap so far. Friday has got the best lap of a 34.9, followed by a 35.1 for the D. Wham Bam in P5, Matthew right behind him in P6, and that is R Slicker. I don't like these names personally, they don't sound right, but he's in 7th, Van Nel is in 8th, Arsehole was in 9th, BK down in 10th. Starting to be cut adrift a bit. GTP in 11th, Gibbs in 12th, Jerome in 13th, Scooby with the rear looking like it's hanging off his car. Unless that was a visual glitch. No, he's had some massive contact there in P14 and he's struggling big time. So those down from 11th down have obviously all had issues in the opening laps and have all been cut adrift from the rest of the field. As Friday continues to hound the D. Now the D has actually had a slightly better lap this time, although Friday appears to have the straight line speed, because down the straight, that gap, oh, he's deep on the brakes there, and there's a bit of lag as well there. He was deep on the brakes there, but yeah, he seems to have the speed down the straights. Now you can see the D's only got 15 kilos of fuel, while Friday's got 39, and the rest of the field, apart from Scott, who's also on 14, Wham Bam on 50, maybe those who, knowing that you've got the mandatory pit stop, some people have gone with the idea of refueling, where others appear to have gone for, fill up for the race and only change tyres. We're down to 12 drivers already. We've had a few people call it a day already, and those people disappear off the leaderboard when they call it a day as well. So I believe that's Scooby and one of the other drivers. I can't remember who it was. Who was languishing down there at the back. But the D's had a better lap this time. He's pulled the gap to over a second. Goose and Scott here battling for P3. Scott looks like he's deep on the brakes there. Oh, Goose looks like he's a little wide, but Scott also had to. Friday's had an issue. Friday spun. He spun through the opening complex, and that's allowed Mother Goosery and Scott through in P2, P3. It's let the D off the hook. The D has now got nearly there's a 5.5 second lead as they come through this almost frustrating section of track where you can't really do anything other than half throttle and just gliding it through the corners. But Scott is now harassing Goose. Goose going very defensive. And we'll see how this comes into play when it comes to the stops, and how much time you actually lose with having to refuel on top of changing tyres. But the D is now, it's closing up to 6 seconds in the lead. And that gives him a little bit of a margin. I mean, he's got 12 kilos of fuel, so he'll basically force the box whenever he's due to run out of fuel, where the likes of Goose and Friday, for example, have filled up for what looks like the entire race. So they get more flexibility with when they pit. But we'll keep an eye on the tyres on the right hand side of the screen. We're on board each driver. Scott once again gets up right behind Goose. gap now 6.4 between the top two. A little bit further down the field. So Wham Bam he's still in touch along with Matthew, fifth and sixth. They're second through sixth. They're all 4 seconds apart. So it's all very close between them lot. Van Nell's in seventh, but he's a further 13 seconds back. And he's got BK again, who's lost the front end of his car. The whole front end of his car is gone. I don't know if that's on a wall or with another car, but they're and he's boxing. We'll see how this pit stop plays out. Very, very, very slow pit lane. It's a very long pit lane as well. So we'll see. He's the first one. First. Oh, okay. Maybe he wasn't the first garage. How? And instantly going out. That the spectator view doesn't really do the pit lane justice there. I think doesn't really give you the best. And BK's no, we're down to 11. Who? Gibbs has gone. Gibbs is. I thought that might be BK retiring then, but it's not. It's Gibbs has retired it as well. So D is now over 7 seconds in the lead, but this battle for second has intensified because Friday is now right on the back of them. And we've got Wham Bam and Matthew in close facility as well. Yeah, that word. Close together as well. Just 4 or 5. Oh, there's a bit of contact there between Scott and Friday. Arseholes in the pits as well. The battle for second. Now, as I said, Scott has only got 7 kilos of fuel, so he'll have to pit effectively when he runs out of fuel. The other two can pit whenever they like because they've filled up for the entire race. But with these cars, you won't get much of a slipstream effect just because the cars don't really have the speed down a straight for a slipstream really to take effect. So to make a move, you purely have to get a good run out of a corner so you can effectively slingshot past. It's 2, 3 and 4 as we're down to 10 drivers now. Oh, that's Friday having a look. These guys are now 9 seconds off the leader. D is running off into the distance. With these lot battling, he's now nearly 10 seconds in the lead. But the D has got a nice margin. And as I said, with that element of flexibility, although he will have to take on fuel. It's interesting to see, you can see all the PSI settings each driver has gone for. But Friday is it's an interesting battle, this. And obviously these guys are keeping it with an element of caution because they have still got 12 laps to go. And with a pit stop still to play as well, there's no point going for broke now. So only make a move if you end up in a position to have a look. Friday's having another look. Matthew has got past Wham Bam into P5. So Matthew now up to 5th. His fastest lap time. I don't know if that's his fastest lap time or his last lap time. 36.6, 36.6, no, that's his last lap time. His fastest lap time for Matthew is a 35.7. That's nearly a second off what the D has done out front. Oh, and that's a back marker. Yep, that's arsehole getting out of the way. Friday is now right on the back of Scott. He is in a position now to maybe look at... Oh, he's braking early, so he knows he can't really make a move into there. If he can get a run out through this second to last turn, he might be able to have a look into last turn, but... Oh, that's Goose, and that's Friday in. So the two drivers who have filled up for the entire race... are pitting now pretty much bang on half distance, whereas the likes of Scott, who's only got 2 kilos of fuel left. I don't know how much fuel they use per lap, but 2 kilos does not sound a lot. And I hope this graphic is accurate when it comes to sort of fuel usage and the vehicle status with the tyres and the PSI and what have you. But Scott is still got 2 kilos, so no, so it should be alright. He's about half a lap round now, and that fuel usage just stayed at 2 kilos, although he's made a mistake there by the looks of it. So he will have to refuel, obviously, in his stop. Now, will that mean he will lose ground? So like a Goose and Friday, they're only just... Friday's only just coming out of the pits. Did he repair damage? Because Goose is a long way out in front. Scott's going to have to pit this lap, and he does. The leaders are in. So we'll see if this will be a little bit more friendly on the view with when it comes into sharing the pit lane, but we will see where Goose comes out in relation to these guys. Yeah, the fuel's going in. Sounds like the tyres are done. Yeah, the fuel's going in, and Goose has already gone by. Goose is long gone. And Goose has jumped the D as well. Now Wham Bam still to pit, Matthew's still to pit. But Matthew again has got enough fuel to go all the way to the end. So in theory Goose should lead this race once everyone has made their pit stop. GTP is coming out of the pits now. I don't know why his number's red. I don't know if that's just... I don't know what that means. But Matthew is now in the pits. And this will be just purely a change of tyres and go. Wham Bam will have to pit because he's literally out of fuel. And Goose is coming around the last couple of corners now. So he will easily lead the race. But will Matthew actually make his way out into... I wonder if that means they've got a penalty, those in reds, because Wham Bam's also now... No, the D's going to go through. Matthew's pit stop's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. So the D's gone through, Friday's going to go through. Scott might go through. It's going to be close, but Goose, with the not having to refuel due to taking all his fuel on at the start of the race, as long as he can keep it steady and on the road, has a 15.5-second lead with 8 laps to go. And all of a sudden, he is looking very comfortable out in front. His last lap time being a 1:36.2. Friday's in second, but I say 15 seconds down now. The D, sorry, second. Friday's in third. Matthew's up to fourth, so he's jumped Scott just. Wham Bam's in sixth. Nell's in seventh. GTP's in eighth. And then the two rude-sounding names are 9th and 10th. BK's obviously called it a day. BK's no longer out there. That gap's already down to 14 point. I've made that 13.6. That gap's coming down quickly. But they've both got this. Oh no, the D spun. Well, that's meant that Goose has got a nice, healthier advantage now. And that's Friday now, right behind the D. So all of a sudden, we've got a battle for P2 for the last 6-7 laps. Matthew's hanging on there in fourth, but he's got Scott right behind him. So we've got two battles on for second and third, and then for fourth and fifth as it stands. Wham Bam's in the pits. I wonder if that was like a drive-through or something. So I'm wondering why 7th and 8th there, GTP and Wham Bam, have both got red numbers next to their name. I can only presume it was for an illegal pit stop of sorts. This race is also a bit of a what could have been for Carl as well, because for some reason he didn't make the start. The pole position man did not make the start of this race. He was not on the grid when these guys pulled away. I'm presuming he just didn't ready up in time. I don't know. I say I don't play this game that often, so I'm not fully familiar with how the menu system and the lobby settings work. But I'm just presuming he didn't ready up during that sort of 90-second warm-up periods, which is used as the break between quali and the race. to be out there on track. No, I don't want to cancel. Ooh, wrong button. There we go. And the D is cleared off from Friday again. He's got about a 1.5 second gap over him. Matthew still got Scott right behind him. He's looking to make a move, although Matthew appears to have a bit more straight line speed there. And the last couple of corners with this will be 5 to yeah, 5 to go after the one they're on. Yeah, Matthew appears to have a bit more straight line speed in his Ginetta over Scott, which will... Oh, Scott's deep. I think do get it slowed down. But this battle will probably go all the way on to the end of the race. Hopefully with no hiccups or mistakes or collisions. But looking at the gaps down the field, other than second and third being about 1.5 seconds apart, there's no real battles out there. And Matthew's a little bit wide there, and he came under a little bit of pressure there. He's wide again. Scott's trying to get up the inside, but he just can't get, and he's now compromised himself on that line as well, which means he's just losing time. It means he's no longer in a position to potentially make a move. Matthew is a little bit deeper into there than Scott. I mean, Scott gets a slightly more open line through that section and allows him to close right up again. But I think Scott's going to need Matthew to make a mistake to get by, although he's probably as close as he's ever been. A bit of weaving going on. I thought he might have potentially looked at making a move there, but his weaving only seemed to prevent him from being able to make that move. Goose still leads by 13.5 seconds. The gap's about a second between second and third. But these two are clearly the closest two on the track. Matthew again, he's a long way wide this time. And that's allowed Scott through. It's unfortunate for Matt that. He's doing so well to keep him behind, but unfortunately just went a little bit too hot through that section. And it's now meant that Scott looks like he's going to pull away now. Unfortunately for Scott though, he's what's that? That's 9 seconds up behind Friday now in P3. Because Matthew's a little bit wide again. GTP is now 7th. Wham Bam's dropped down to 9th. But Goose is looking very, very confident in front with the last couple of laps to go. All he has to do is just keep it smooth and steady, not make any mistakes, not rack up penalties, and he will win this race. 12-second lead with what will be 3 to go. Once he crosses the start line, laps 19, lap 20 and then lap 21. I don't see him losing over 4 seconds a lap in the last 3 laps to lose this win. Oh no, Friday is now right on the back of the D again, so the D's made another... I don't know if D's made a mistake or whether Friday has just picked up the pace again. But the battle for second is now back on. Will Friday have a look into turn 1? Is he close enough to... He's not quite close enough to have a look, although he's got a better line. Oh, thought he might have tried to get up the inside there, but the D cut the line off. Goose's lead is being cut, but it's too big a gap for that gap to be caught up. But Friday is now looking. Fuel loads are fine. I mean, as we saw with I think it was Wham Bam, he managed to complete his last lap before pitting. I know Martin Scott actually completing his last lap before he pitted, and he started that lap with only 2 kilos. So some of these drivers, likes of Goose for example, might have actually overfilled their car slightly, but I'm guessing that was to take into consideration for any potential mistakes or spins or anything like that, because obviously that would all then just use up that precious fuel. But we're on the penultimate lap now. Goose going through the first couple of corners as Friday and the D approach that section. D's last lap being a 34.8 and Friday's been a 35.1. Mother Goosery's been a 36.4, so he's definitely appears to be taking it fairly steady as Goose. That gap is coming down, but it's still way too comfortable for it to be overhauled. But the D appears to have the pace to not be challenged from Friday, but he's made a couple of mistakes in this race, which is why he's in that position. He was well out in front in the opening phase, but chose to not fill his car up all the way, meaning he had to take fuel on at his stop, along with a couple of spins, and it's now put him, he's still P2, but he looked like he had the pace to go on and win this if he'd just kept it. Goose is in. Why is Goose pitting? Why is Goose pitting? That's lost in the lead. As we go on to the final lap, the D and Friday are going to battle this for the win. Why has Goose pitted with 1 lap to go? Well, I never. So the battle for the lead now in this final lap has this battle's taken new meaning, because it will be for the win. Oh, as Friday uses every part of that track to try and because Friday was a 1/10 of a second quicker that last lap on the 34.8 with the D on a 34.9. But Goose is now down into P6. I don't understand that. It'd be nice to find out what happened to him at the end. I don't get that. He has done his stop. Pretty sure of that. pretty certain he went through the pits anyway. But anyway, coming around the last couple of corners, it's going to be the D who's going to take this. The D from Friday. The D wins. Friday will be second. Scott is going to come through in P3. Round the final bend he comes, and he will come and take the last step on the podium. In P3. Matthew will take 4th. Van Nel will be in 5th, but Goose will be in P6. I'll need to recheck my replays. I'm pretty certain I saw him pit earlier on, but it might explain why he had a massive gap halfway through that race. Maybe he didn't pit and I've missed that, and he was just doing that until the end, just a different strategy. But Van Nel in 5th and Goose in P6. GTP will come round in P7. And you have Arslicker, Wham Bam and Arsehole rolling out the rest of the field. Arsehole is doing weird things out on track. And there you go. There's the Smooth Goose. No, he only pitted once, so he didn't pit. I do apologise about that, but I missed that. But Goose actually didn't pit earlier on in the race. He chose to do his pit literally at the last opportunity. Very strange decision to do so. But it means he ended up at P6, but it's the D and Friday and Scott end up being in top 3, followed by Matthew, Van Nel and Goose with GTP, Arslicker, Wham Bam and Arsehole, the 10 finishers. And you got BK, Gibbs, Jerome not finishing, and there was 2 others there. That obviously Kyle didn't start, and there was 1 other not on that list. Well, that was the opening round of the Ginetta GT4 challenge on Project Cars 2. And it was a fairly interesting race actually in the end. Me missing the fact that Goose had not actually pitted obviously added an element that I wasn't expecting. But we ended up having a good battle at the end with the D and Friday battling all the way to the end for the win. A few little bumps and bruises along the way, and a driver who actually originally took pole position not actually able to take the start. So it'll be interesting to see what happened with him there. But unfortunately, yeah, Carl W was not able to take the start there. But the next race will take place in a week's time. Every Saturday at 8 PM UK time. This league does run, and bear with me 1 second. Just getting the next round on the 18th of November is around the Brands Hatch GP circuit. So we will see you all then for the second round of the Project Cars League. But the next event you will see at raystation.net is tomorrow evening from 7 o'clock UK time, which is the F1 League on F1 2017 around Russia. So we will all see you then. Thank you for watching and good night.